Welcome. Got another fun-filled and exciting session for you guys. And I want to introduce our first guest and sponsor, and we're always appreciative, Paul DiGiacobbe from Colliers. And we're going to, basically it's a geospatial technology update, which is pretty generic. You know, Paul's going to wave his arms and show you what's new. Okay. So with no further ado, I'm going to give it over to Paul.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And thanks to Ted and the team for allowing us to be a sponsor and have a session with you folks, so we really appreciate it. The quick agenda here, just a little update about the company that I work for and how we're growing over the last year. Things have changed quite a bit. Then I'm going to get into some technology updates on the UAS side, unmanned aerial side. A little about indoor mobile mapping, investments we've made there. Talk about some mobile LiDAR changes, and then just get into a few interesting applications that you might be interested in as well. Just things that help with visualization and things like that. So a little bit about Colliers. We're kind of in an acquisition mode right now. We've acquired a company by the name of Bergman. They're about 500 people. Mostly in the Midwest and the North Atlantic, 500 people or so. So for us, it's the first time we now have like transportation engineering. We've always been civil, site civil type civil engineering, and then geospatial and a few other geotechnical and environmental. But now we have transportation engineering with the addition of Bergman. So we're happy about that. And then most recently, we bought a company by the name of KFW Engineering out of Texas. 4 or 5 offices down there, I think 300 people, more site civil type of offerings, and they also do surveying. So as a whole, the company a year ago when I was here, we were in 36 offices, about 1,000 people, 36 years of experience. Now in 2022, we're up to 60 offices nationwide, and I think it's closer to 2,000 people. 1,800 is a good number, but I think it's more than that. And of course, we have another year of experience. So major growth. It's challenging. I don't know if anyone's been in an environment like this, but it's hard to get to know everyone, you know, and everyone has kind of different company cultures and things like that. But we're anxious to help them all with the things that we do. That's what I like about geospatial, is that everyone needs survey, right? To get any project started, we all need survey. So let's talk about some of the survey stuff. This is one of the newer drones that we bought. That's a Skyfront Perimeter 8. I guess most notable about the Skyfront is that it's broken records for endurance. I think it stayed in the air for like 13 hours or something, which is crazy. But what's really neat about it for us, because we were very heavy into the pulse vapors. You probably, if you were here before, you saw me showing the, looks like our miniature helicopter. Very cool. It was awesome in 2016, but they have a tendency to fall out of the sky, which isn't fun, and it's expensive. Josh can tell you from Regal that, you know, you typically end up landing on your belly. That's where the scanner is. So this instrument is a lot different. It's a hybrid, so you have both electric and gas-powered motors, and there's a redundancy in there. So you're kind of flying on gas, and if anything should fail, the electric motors kick in, and you can land it safely. So it makes the insurance people happy, and of course our executive committee knows we're not, you know, out there, you know, kind of cowboys flying around hoping we don't crash. So very interesting application, and that has a Vox 1 attached to it. We've also made the investment in some new camera equipment for the LiDAR. So this is a phase 1 IXM 100, so 100 megapixel camera on a gimbal. It's pretty interesting stuff. I have a sample photo I'll show you. When you combine that with LiDAR, you can imagine you're going to get really, really detailed information. And what's nice about having this camera system and a LiDAR sensor on it and keeping it under 55 pounds is a major accomplishment. We didn't have that luxury before. We were typically running LiDAR missions and then switching out the, you know, either switching the drone or switching out the payload to get, you know, imagery. Now we're going to be able to do both. So this is a sample photo. We're actually in the middle of a project in New York City. We're kind of mapping the coastlines. I think they have 500 miles of coastline, which sounds crazy, but there's a lot of little nooks and, you know, crannies up there. So let me just click on this image and just zoom in on it. So good, I gotta say yes to that always. warns me. So this is the image. Just give it a second to load. And it's just amazing that, I think we were flying at about 700 feet above the deck, but you can zoom in and see the nails in the wood panels. I mean, that's like crazy, right? So to me, this with LiDAR is really going to change the game for us. We've always had, decent Sony A7R type cameras, but this stuff is like mind-boggling to me. So we're super excited about it. Let's see what else. No, that's something for later. Oh, there it is. Okay, so that's the Phase 1 IXM100. We've also made the investment in the new Regal Vox 120, which is kind of like the replacement for the Vox 1. Incredible pulse rates on this instrument, tremendous amount of data being collected, up to 400 scan lines per second if you max it out. And NFB, which is new, kind of a new 3-letter acronym coming from Regal, but it basically means native, forward, and back. So what's most interesting about this scanner, as you're flying, you have a scan line looking forward, you have a scan line looking nadir, and you have a scan line looking back. So if any of you have done aerial LiDAR before, a lot of times you don't get the faces of things. You're going to see the rooftops and you'll get good coverage on the ground, but you just don't get the face of the wall, or now you're going to get it. And we've got some test data, which I'll show you in a second. But to me, that's groundbreaking stuff. We're super excited because you're just going to spend less time flying, right? If you can get that much coverage, our missions are shorter, we're collecting more data faster, and we can basically do more in a given mission. This is compatible with the Phase 1. So you saw that gimbal with the camera. You can imagine mounted to the back of that will be this instrument, and all of that is under 55 pounds. So to me, this is pretty much, if you're in the drone business, and I know a lot of people are getting into it, it's not cheap. None of these things are cheap. But if you get to that point where you're doing big stuff, solar fields, things like that, that's large, hundreds of thousands of acres, this is a really good instrument to have. It is compatible, as I said, and then you can attach it to a drone or manned craft. We actually are doing that job in New York City with the helicopter. So you can get a pod for that and kind of move it back and forth between the drone and manned craft. So we're pretty excited. This is a sample photo that was given to us from, they gave us sample data when we were evaluating the instrument. We got that from Regal, but pretty impressive amount of coverage in a single pass. So we're super excited about the Vox 120. So intermobile mapping, how many people have seen this instrument? I mean, this is to me the new sliced bread, right? This is cool, right? We just made the purchase of the Navis, what's called a VLX. Navis is an interesting company. They came out with an indoor mobile mapper, and I've seen indoor mobile mapping since like 2010. I know Trimble had something that was like a push cart, and that's great if everything's flat. But as soon as you need to go up and down stairs or anything like that, it breaks down the workflow. And I think the first instance from Navis was the M6, which was, again, a cart, had wheels and had scanners and cameras, which was really neat. But again, you're good for one floor, and then you kind of have to set up and move again. With this instrument now, we're basically walking wherever you can go. This instrument can go. Obviously, the only thing you can't get into is maybe real small spaces, but then you could bring some other type of slam instrument, to kind of infill where you can't stand. So we're super excited about it. The production rate is probably the most impressive thing. If you've done static scanning of interior spaces, which everyone's been doing that for a long time, we're seeing like a 10-to-1 improvement in field time, which is pretty awesome. I mean, we're covering, you can cover hundreds of thousands of square feet in a given day, and as long as you got enough batteries, you can just keep going. I think one of the most impressive things about the offering from Navis is what they call the Immersive Viewer. I was going to get into it today, but you can actually just look for it online. It's a very impressive immersive viewer. If you like Google Street View, where you can walk around and kind of move the eye of the camera, it allows you to do that. And typically the data set is available like the next day. If you use their web service, they're offering that immersive viewer the next day. So we have a lot of pushy clients. I'm sure none of you guys suffer from that problem, but people want stuff like right away. So to me, what I like is that you got this kind of multiple downstream applications. So the first thing we want to give people, if they're doing site assessment, is give them the Ion Viewer. They can walk around, they can measure, they can snap images. If someone has a reason to look at the data, they're going to love that. But then we're moving from that workflow into the scan to BIM, right? So we're going to build Revit models, we're going to build base plans, things of that nature. And it really does give you kind of multiple things that you can do once you get your hands on the data. The other thing that's really cool with this Ion Viewer is that if you are doing static scans, we have some situations where we'll walk through the facility to get kind of the overall scan, but then we might come back and do a real detailed static scan, like bring an RTC 360 or something that can do a much more detailed scan of an interesting piece of equipment, let's say. And all of that can be combined into one data set. So it's pretty awesome. I think this is a game changer. If you've been around long enough and you've done enough static scanning, this is a very welcome instrument to the arsenal. So we're super excited. I did get a video to show you. This is actually from, let me get this hand out of the way. This video is from the guys at 90 Degree. I know Andre's here. There she is. So her husband, Soren Papa, has been like really good at building videos of these things. So he sent me this one. This is, I think, in Europe. Andre probably knows better than anyone. It's a supermarket. So I have to leave the music on. So it's really, you're just flying through what was collected with the VLX, and you'll start to see some of the extraction work that they've laid out. They're basically doing like a 2D floor plan of this facility. Pretty awesome, very fast workflows. But to me, being able to see this kind of data in real time within a day, you know, to have people look at it is really awesome. And this video is fantastic to show what the capability of the instrument is. It is really amazing. I like this view where he kind of peels away and you can see the whole thing at once. That's awesome. And this is, as you guys know, building something like that does not take that long, you know, and there's all kinds of automated routines to make it happen. So yeah, the company that did that is called Plan A. So good stuff. All right, so let's talk about some of the mobile stuff we're doing. We made the investment. We were doing some asset work. If you haven't gotten involved in that, it's kind of, everyone seems to want an asset inventory of what they own. So we have two VMX systems from Regal. They come with what's called a CS6 or CS9 camera system. So they're kind of a fixed frame camera, like 9 megapixels each. The problem with that is you really can't read small things, right? So we thought, because we're doing assets, we'll upgrade to this camera system. So this is actually mounted on a VMX. We can put up to 4 of them on ours. I think with the newer systems, you may be able to do more than that. So what you get out of it, we got 447 megapixel cameras. It is really good for asset management. We've integrated into the TopoDOT workflow, so once you calibrate your images, they can be used while you're doing your extraction. And I know we were doing a rail project in Philadelphia, and it was kind of in an urban environment. So there was all kinds of like just trash and debris in the railway, because it was like a kind of a streetcar system, and there was some of it was ballasted. So we were trying to pick out these little sensors. They have like wheel sensors that are like that big attached to the rail, or sometimes they're on the tie. And if there's trash or like beer cans or whatever, you know, milk cartons, if you're not looking at images, you might think that's actually a piece of equipment. So the imagery really helped us kind of sort out what was real and what was not real, and what would they want to see. So super effective for any type of telecom utility application, rail assets, as I mentioned, and you can colorize your point clouds with this information as well. Let me show you this image. This is an image we were doing, I think, a pole inventory. So this is a 47 megapixel image. Let me just zoom in, because I like that you can zoom right in on the tag. Okay, come on, zoom. Yeah, so you can see 87416, you know, so that's the kind of stuff that's really helpful, you know, when you're working on an asset project. So our guys are really taking advantage of it. We use it more than not. But it does create a tremendous amount of data. And I know when you're talking to anybody that handles big data, you got to be careful how much you collect, right? So we could probably run for like 4 hours with this. We collect on, they're like those CF cards. I forget, 512 megs or something. I forget what the capacities, but the more you capture, the more you fill up your storage. So you got to be careful of how much you're storing, and make sure you bring extra CF cards with you, because it'll fill up and then you kind of stop collecting data. But really cool stuff. We're super excited. The guys at Regal do a great job of integrating it, so it's not real hard. As far as the triggering of the camera is all integrated with the way the VMX is working. So it's a pretty functional system. We're happy with it. So let's talk a little bit about some other things that we're doing, some different technology things that we're trying to do. One of the things that drives me crazy with LiDAR data is that I would like to look at elevation colorization with intensity. And I know I was talking to Matty about this yesterday, and he's starting to fix some things. What I don't like is that what we call the candy caning, where it kind of repeats itself, right? You kind of go to load, you just get this kind of repeating pattern. So what we figured out a way to do is actually have, looking at the entire LiDAR data set, look at the high and the low in the data set, and then ramp the color accordingly. And then what we do is if there's a lot of data in one specific range, we're not changing too much within that range, right? We want to make sure that there's kind of things that look the same. So that's a picture of it right there. That's a rail project we're working on in DC. But you have probably, I don't know, 120 feet of change, but there's no repeating of it. And then we're also using the intensity so you can see the difference, between the line stripe and the paving. So what we're doing is we're basically remapping and using the RGB channel within the last file. And that kind of, when you open it up in TopoDOT and use RGB, you'll see this color ramp. So it's pretty cool. It is based on the min and the max and the histogram, so we know where the concentration of data is by elevation, and it helps us kind of create this elevation by percentile. And as I said, we're rendering that out to the RGB channel, just rewriting the last file. So it's one of the things we just kind of work on. Some of you guys that know me a long time know someone named Chris Seaburn. We call him Dr. Seaburn. Chris is, he dreams this stuff up and like writes the code while he's, sleeping. And then the next day he's showing me something done. So he's the author of this tool. And I feel like it could end up in TopoDOT. So I don't know. We'll probably have to have Chris talk to Maldy, and those two guys can connect at a high level, and we'll see if we can make something happen. But it's a pretty cool capability. I like to look at the data that way. I think it's more natural to my eye to look at the data in elevation. Yeah, the other thing I wanted to show you, if you have to demonstrate your data to people, sometimes we have a hard time explaining what extraction is. Like sometimes people say, are you going to process the LiDAR data? And we're like, yeah, that's like a 7-step thing, So processing means a lot of things. It could mean, working the data after you've collected it in the field into LAS tiles. It could mean extraction. So we feel like we have to demonstrate to people what it is what's the end product? What are you going to get when we're done working with TopoDOT and showing you what we're doing? So there's a tool from, it's called Juxtapose here. If you like it, remember that. And it's an organization within Northwestern University called Night Lab, and it's basically like a freeware. So you can just kind of grab the tool online, and then you basically just give it 2 images, and it kind of puts them together for you. I'll show you some live what they actually look like. So, there it is. This guy. So this is an example, and what you get is basically from the 2 images, and I just basically snap these out of MicroStation. You basically get the point cloud view, and you get the DTM view. So, and really you can see there's just a link that they give you. Once you actually drop your images in there and it builds it for you, you get just an output. And I would love to be able to insert this into a PowerPoint, but I can't. I've been trying to find a way to do it. It's just like a little web page. Here's another one we did for a tunnel. Here is tunnel up in Connecticut. There's the tunnel extraction, and then the point cloud of the entry of the tunnel. So this helps people just understand, what do we do? What are all these people in this room doing every day? They're doing this kind of extraction. Because the point cloud is very interesting to look at, but it doesn't really tell the story of what you're going to pull out of it. So we feel like this is a really interesting capability that's free. And typically, if I'm showing somebody what I'm doing or what I've done, we're going to use something like this to demonstrate that. Okay. Cool projects. We just mobile mapped the Sebring Raceway, which is maybe 150 miles southwest of here. Pretty famous racetrack. The client, most interesting, is a gaming company. They're basically making, some kind of a racing game. So we went out there with the mobile mapper and we brought, of course, the cameras, and we're going to fly it because I'll show you the next slide. There's constant gaps between where we drove the track. Massive data set. They drove it over and over again. This is the KMZ. You guys ever done this where you can like export your data coverage in a KMZ? But you can see there's some holes, So we're going to fly it with a high-res camera, probably the IXM 100, and get real good native imagery for them as well. And then the whole thing will get colorized. And I assume it's going to go into some game that'll be on EA Sports or whatever someday. So pretty cool project. I love getting stuff like this because you get a little tired of doing the DOT, 5 miles of roadway or whatever. This is so cool. So we're super excited about being involved in the project. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about Andre and Sword. We have a contract now with them to actually build visualization for us. And if you guys are on LinkedIn, if you just look up Sword and look up 90 Degree, the videos this guy's producing are phenomenal. I mean, I'm a junkie for that kind of stuff. I want to see the visuals look good. We used to do it in-house and, people come and go and we lost the capability. But this guy, Soren, is really talented. I uploaded my data and spent probably 5 minutes talking to him about what I think it should look like. And a day later, I was just like, wow. So let me show you what this looks like. It's pretty cool stuff. So this is a New Jersey Turnpike, 12-lane section up in basically Princeton, Trenton area. And he's basically showing you the point cloud, our extraction, and just kind of showing you different ways of looking at the data. So to me, if you don't know what mobile LiDAR is, this is a pretty cool way to show it. And then he also provided me with 10 stills, which you saw the very opening slide was one of the stills from this work. But yeah, it's pretty awesome to me. I mean, I would love to have the ability to do it in-house, but knowing that he can do it fairly quickly and really not that expensively, so it goes a long way for me. Tons of control out there, as you can imagine. We had 12 lanes and I guess maybe 8 shoulders. So we had targets everywhere to make it work. And they wanted kind of like 300th accuracy or something like that. So pretty cool stuff. That's pretty much it for me. I'll leave you with a quote from Thomas Edison. You got to continue to innovate, right? That's how we beat the competition. So I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. So any questions from? Because Paul's giving you all the secrets. So, I mean, this is your chance, Okay.
I'll be around if you need to ask any questions. So
okay.
Here on Friday.
All right. Great. Hey, thanks a lot. That was interesting. It was cool.
You're welcome.
I got some ideas. I was taking notes. Okay. All right. Well, our next presenters are our friends from Foth. And it's no. Did you put it on our machine? That's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's put it over here.